You know, some stories, you don't tell them around a campfire. You feel them deep in your bones. They come on a day when the sky itself just goes wrong. This is one of them.
A silence fell over those plains, a quiet so deep you could hear the whole world just holding its breath.
So you don't need flags for this. No calls to arms. What was coming, well, it wasn't for an army, it was for the soul.
And every single soul in that broken downtown felt it. A reckoning, born of dust and betrayal, was finally coming home.
She wasn't a ghost. No, not a god either. She was a promise that had been broken, a memory that just refused to die. She was Sundance.
And it wasn't the warm, hopeful yellow of a sunrise. Oh no, this was a sick, jaundiced color. Like the sun itself was ashamed to even look down on what was about to happen.
You know that feeling? That split second after the hammer's been pulled back, but right before the shot rings out? It was just like that, only stretched across the whole damn world.
And then they saw her. A horse made of raw flame, just wrapped in dust. Her coat was the color of a sunset bleeding into the dark. Her eyes, they weren't even eyes, just pure blinding light. Her mane didn't flow, it crackled like a lightning storm. And her hooves, they'd kissed the ground, but they left no mark.
The followers, the faithful of that false prophet, they just collapsed. Some of them wept, others screamed, and it wasn't just from fear, you understand. It was from the terrible, beautiful awe of seeing a truth they'd spent their lives denying.
But not all of them knelt. In the middle of all that weeping, all that awe, 4 figures stayed on their feet. Just 4. There was Dust, a man with no name really to call his own. Charlie North, a woman who seemed carved from ice. Charlie West, a shadow who always wore a smirk. And Charlie South, the prophet who built his entire church on a stolen legend.
And just like that, the world went silent, utterly still. And in that quiet, Sundance started her real work, not with fire and hoof, but with memory.
Her very presence was like a key, unlocking rooms in their hearts they had sealed shut a long time ago. One man saw the face of the child he'd left behind to chase his greed. Another felt the crushing weight of dirt as he remembered burying his own brother, a victim of South's ambition. And a woman just collapsed, her faith completely shattered, sobbing for a truth she'd spent a lifetime running from.
And then she moved, right up the steps of that ruined church. Each hooffall, it wasn't a sound. No, it was the tick of a clock that had been counting down for years and was finally reaching its end.
So at the top of those steps, you got the prophet, Charlie South, that practiced smile of his finally cracking. And down on the ground below, there was Dust, unarmed, his hat in his hand, his eyes wide open, seeing everything for exactly what it was. 2 men, you see, facing the same truth from opposite ends of a lie.
South actually tried to bargain with the legend. He offered her his words, his performance, as if telling a story was the same thing as living the truth. She answered him, but it wasn't with a roar of fury. It was with a sound so full of sorrow it could break the heart of the world itself. It was the sound of a love that remembers, and a loss that can never, ever be healed. It was the sound of betrayal. The air just shimmered with power. The land itself seemed to be waiting. So who would the spirits follow? The man who stole the story, or the man who simply lived the truth? Sundance, the spirit of the plains, the fire of judgment. She turned away from the false prophet on his altar. She walked down those steps, stood right before the man with nothing, and she bowed her head.
So why him? Why Dust? Well, it's because he never tried to claim her, never tried to own her story. He was the one who walked away from all the power games, and when he finally came back, it wasn't for revenge, it was just to try and mend what had been broken.
And with that one act, everything changed. The assembly scattered, broken by the truth. Charlie South's empire of lies just turned to dust around him. Charlie West, for the first time, saw something real. And Charlie North, she finally let that cold inside her begin to thaw.
Sundance spoke then, but not with her voice. The words just sort of bloomed inside Dust's soul. A quiet acknowledgement, a debt repaid. Because he never asked to ride her,
She remembered him. And in that moment, he finally understood his own name. He wasn't the hero. He was just the man who was left standing when all the lies had finally burned away to ash.
Her judgment was delivered. Her job was done. And Sundance didn't vanish in some flash of fire. She simply faded, like a whisper on the wind, like a story that has finally, after all these years, found its proper ending.
And then the wind started to blow again. But it was different. For the first time in a generation, it didn't carry the smell of blood or the echo of lies. It carried the quiet, clean feeling of peace. And it left just one question hanging on the air. What does that even feel like?